welcome back to the channel. I'm Corey Congilio, and it's good to have you here. And if you follow me and subscribe on this channel, you know that every Thursday at 2 p.m. I do a live stream where I teach a topic to a bunch of my faithful viewers, and we have a lot of fun. And the topics range from anything from lead guitar playing to how to play with a band to rhythm ideas. But by and large, the arpeggios for blues playing is always something people ask about. I love teaching it, I love playing it, I love talking about it because it's kind of the third piece of my personal improvising. Pentatonic guy, major and minor scales, and then arpeggios. And then everything else is some added spice that just takes those things to another level. Arpeggios really help me do that, particularly dominant 7 arpeggios over blues progressions. Every Thursday we teach on a topic. This was a hot one several weeks ago, and if you don't subscribe to the channel, I wish you would. Just hit the button below and ring the bell so you know when I do those live streams and you know when I put out new lessons like this. Blues music primarily, and funky kind of tunes like this where you can improvise over them, whether they be R&B or whatever, jazz, are built on these dominant 7 shapes. And dominant 7 chords have 4 notes in them to start with. Now, what we're going to do here is we're actually going to play each one of those notes. We're not going to play a particular scale, but the arpeggio actually pinpoints each one of those notes. So when you're playing a dominant 7 chord, you know, a minor pentatonic scale will work perfectly over it. And also a major pentatonic scale will work pretty well too. And weaving those together also work well. But the arpeggio is kind of like hitting the bullseye of each one of those notes that are in the chord. So your G7 chord, and a lot of folks like to use this one to teach because it's got all our notes really sort of obviously pointed out there. We have a G, we have an F, we have a B, and a D. And those notes make up a G7 chord. And it starts with a triad. And a triad is a 3-note chord, but we're not just going to play a chord shape. We're actually going to play single notes. So that's our G, B, and D. And I'll have the tab for you here. You can click the link below. In the description, you'll find the tab and the tracks for this lesson. So you have G, B, and D. And then our last note is F. So if I was just going to play those by themselves, maybe in against a tempo, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and... you can hear that it's definitely got a dominant 7 tonality, and it sure should because it's all of the notes that exist in a G7 chord. And now we can continue to take that up to the next octave, and we can even add the high G if we want there. And that starts there on the 4th string, 5th fret. So it's going to go 5, 4, 3, and then 4, 3, 2 on the strings. And then that F is going to be there on the 2nd string, 6th fret. And then we can end it there with the high G on the 1st string, 3rd fret. Okay? So we're going to have this kind of idea. all of those notes, if you watch too, they'll weave nicely in and out of the pentatonic scales, both major and minor. But when I'm playing a groove like this, I got a little G7 loop happening here, just one chord. There's our G7. I'll just play each note slowly and we can hear how it works over it. 2, 3, 4. Let's walk it up again. Let's go to the higher octave. So now what you can do is you can use maybe the arpeggio as a launching pad and then end with a pentatonic idea. Let's try that. I have no idea what I'm going to play. Here we go. I'll take this part of the arpeggio. Blues lick. Was ending with pentatonic. Here's the arpeggio. Blues lick. So then when you really get kind of aware of where this arpeggio lies, you can kind of start to really approach it from a number of different ways. So let's talk about that. What we can do is over that chord, we don't have to always start an arpeggio on the root. Let's start that loop again. Here's the third. So maybe we start it from the third and then do a blues lick. Here's the third here. Third. Now the third, if you don't know what that is, it's the second note in the chord after the root. It's 3 notes higher than the root note. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's the third. So think of it as the second note in the arpeggio. The third note in the arpeggio is the 5th. We could try that. It's right here. Right? That's cool. So I'm sliding into the third, starting on the 5th. So on the 5th, 5 to 5, 5th to 5th. End with a blues lick. So create a loop like that and just play the notes and hear how they sit against the chord. Root, 3rd, 5th, real bluesy, flat 7. Now we can start on the flat 7, ride the arpeggio up. And I cheated there and I went from the C to the B. All right, so, but there's 2 more chords in this progression. All right, and you noticed what I did was when I started playing that tune, or that's that little jam, I'd go. When it got to the C chord, I'd go. Because what I want you to do now is take that same shape, it's going to be all tabbed out for you, and you're going to move it up now to the 8th fret, and that's going to start on the C. again, you can do all of the same stuff, but what I would caution you is you're not in the key of C now. You're just playing the C arpeggio over that chord. It's like putting all the right keys in the right keyholes, or when you have like the kind of spice blend, that's the everything spice, right? And it's a little bit of everything. That's kind of what your scales are. Whereas like paprika is a specific spice, okay? And that's the arpeggio. It's the specific notes in the chord. So what I could do there is over that C chord, that was the arpeggio, the dominant 7 arpeggio. Same fingering as we learned for G, we just moved the root. But I want to also think about some G minor pentatonic ideas as well. Because it's not going to be on that C chord for very long before it goes back to the 1. So think about where you're headed, and you're headed back to G, and the best way to do it is probably G minor pentatonic. Now when the 5-7, which is a D7 in this case, comes up, we're going to move it up a whole step. Let's make sure I got it on camera for you. Here, let's try it again. So as long as you know this one, you're good to go. Now you have all 3. Now, would I normally do that and jump from one to the other so drastically on the guitar neck? I might not. I probably wouldn't all the time, but I was doing that to show you this is a great way to practice. Okay, take one piece and put it through as many keys as you can, all right? So we have G, C, and D. Okay, so let's take a look at one more arpeggio. Okay, so we have our arpeggio for the dominant 7 chords, starting with the 6th-string root that takes us through 2 octaves. We're going to do another one starting with the 5th-string root that'll cover our C7, D7, and we can even use it for G7 way up on the 10th fret. Now, we're going to start here. It's going to be very similar to the one you just learned, which is why I like to teach these together. You know, we want success as soon as we can to make it sound good and to really sort of make sense to us and make us sound like we're sounding sense when we're playing our solos. So we're going to start on a C, 5th string, 3rd fret, same triad movement. We're going to go C, then an E, then a G, and that's 5th, 4th, 4th on the strings, frets 3, 2, 5, and then come there to get the B flat, because in a C7 chord, we have a C, a G, a B flat, and an E note. So those notes are the ingredients that make up a C7 chord, and the arpeggio follows suit. C, E, G, B flat. Let's repeat it. C, this is tricky. Lay your finger down, grab that E note on the 2nd string right above it on this 5th fret there. 1st string, that's going to be a G on the 3rd fret, and then you're going to grab a B flat there on the 6th fret, 1st string. All right, so let's play the G7 and the C7 together. Here we go. This is the one you learned at the beginning of the video. Let's do the C7 now. So you could kind of swing it. So you see how they're really going to be nice and close to each other, and you're going to get some great phrasing. We're going to give you one other cool thing. First of all, let's take that C7 that we did here. Let's move it up a whole step, and now we get D7. That's going to be 5th fret, 5th string. Make sure you download the tab. Follow along. Now we're at C7. And back to G. So you could essentially be like a little bass player and practice this, where you could go. right, so I programmed a little 12-bar pattern in my looper here, and that way I can kind of just play it for you and stop it and start it and try different arpeggios over the chords as they're going by. All right, so let's check out the first arpeggio over the 1 chord here in this 12-bar blues, then we'll go to the 4 and the 5. Here we go. There we go. Let's play a blues lick. C7 arpeggio. Blues lick. Arpeggio. 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 G7 arpeggio again. C7. Blues. D7. Now we're going to go way up here. Before I do that, let me tell you though, we're going to use that 5th string dominant 7 arpeggio here on the 10th fret. Because now that's G7 way up here. Then we're going to play C7 here and D7 here. Let's do it. Blues lick. Arpeggio. Arpeggio. Blues lick. Blues lick, or arpeggio. All right, so I'll roll the track and I'll play some simple arpeggios over top of the progression so you can see how you can use them in your solos. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's our G7. Again. C7. G7. Blues. D7. Way up high on the 10th. C7. Mix them. Alright, so thanks for watching that lesson. I hope you got something out of it. Don't forget that tabs and tracks are available in the link in the description. You can check out my website as well. It'll take you there. A whole bunch of other stuff in the description, like the gear I use, different ways to support the channel, and different ways to get in touch with me. Alright, I'm Corey Congilio. I'll see you next time for another great lesson.